now time for the Billy C. Show, part of the BillyCBoxing.com network.
And we're coming to you live from the Billy C. Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero, and it's time for the Billy C. Show. Good morning, good day, good evening, whenever you're watching, whenever you're listening. I hope you're doing okay. Today's show is being brought to us in part by Sal's Neighborhood Pizzeria and Italian Restaurant located on St. Simon's Island in Georgia. Check out the website, www.salsneighborhoodpizzeria.com, or give my man a call, 912-268-2328, 912-268-2328. Find out why I go all the way to St. Simon's for an authentic Italian meal. Today's show is also being brought to us in part by our 24/7 television channel. That's right, the Billy C. Boxing channel is up. It's doing great. If you haven't checked it out, just go to Ginico USA, GINIKO USA.com. It'll tell you all the streaming services that's available. You could sign up for a free account right now and not only watch past shows like this one, or you can also watch all of our specials that we've done over the years, 15 years worth of Billy C. Boxing. You can get it on Roku and all of the top streaming services. So check it out, GinicoUSA.com, or just visit our website, BillyCBoxing.com, and click on the banner. You can't miss it. It's one of the top 3 scrolling banners right now. So check it out. Let me know what you think. Today's show is also being brought to us in part by my book, Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet, is available right now where all good books are sold. And you can get a copy of this book right now where you're watching or listening to this very show. Just visit BarnesandNoble.com or Amazon.com. Find out why I'm so adamant about getting Tom Molyneux's story told. All right, we're going to talk about a bunch of things today. We're scheduled to have Alex Papali and Dax Khan join us a little bit later. Leo Santa Cruz, one of my favorite fighters, fought last night. We're going to talk about that and some of the undercard on the Fox Network. And also the big news, Anthony Joshua signed, sealed, and delivered for June 1st at Madison Square Garden against that big fat pig, Jarrell Miller. We'll talk about that a little bit later. I got a whole bunch of emails. We've got some fights we're going to preview for next week. But Foist, joining me right now to get his thoughts on the Santa Cruz fight is my partner in crime, Sal Rocky Senacola. Good morning, Sal.
Good morning, Billy C. How are you today?
Oh, I'm doing well. Leo Santa Cruz last night, fighting somewhat of a last-minute sub. It wasn't that last minute. He had 3 weeks' notice, but his original opponent tore retinas in an eye, and the torn retina prevented Abner from fighting. So Rafael Rivera stepped in, but Leo Santa Cruz improved to 36 wins, 1 loss, 1 draw, with 19 of his wins coming by knockout. With pretty much one-sided beatdown of Rafael Rivera, who looked good in the first round, but after that, he was just in there. I was surprised to see him go the distance. What was your thoughts on the fight?
Well, I'll tell you what. How can you not like Leo Santa Cruz? I mean, he's a trainer's dream. I mean, he does everything fundamentally solid and sound. I mean, his elbows are in, his hands are up, his feet are underneath him. He's got good balance. He's throwing the punches, bringing them back. And he cuts the ring off. I mean, he's a polished, all-round, generally great fighter. And he put that display on last night. I mean, I'll tell you what. Rivera was a gamer, kept coming forward, threw a lot of punches, and he showed that he wanted to be in this fight. He even wanted to try and then really upset and take the fight home. But tell you what, Santa Cruz is just too polished, too experienced, and too much ahead of the game to let him do that. So I tell you what, I give all the credit to Leo Santa Cruz. I like him; he's a good fighter.
You know, Leo Santa Cruz started the fight, and I was shocked. Now, what do I always say about Leo Santa Cruz with that the twisting of the glove? He He didn't do it. I thought he.
No,
I
he didn't
thought.
do it.
Well, he did start.
For
He started doing it after the 5th round, but definitely not as much as he used to. As a matter of fact, Rivera was doing it. And I wonder if it's something that they actually worked on or what. Because it did seem that Leo Santa Cruz cut down a lot of that herky-jerky stuff that he did. The only thing that he was doing more than moving the glove was kept, touching at his shorts, like not that he was pulling them up or anything like that, but he kept tapping them. I just think it's a timing mechanism for him, Sal, and I was glad to see him working on not doing it because, maybe not against a guy like Rivera, but the upper echelon fighters, that extra split second or fraction of a second that he twists his glove and then has to try to deliver a punch with it, it'll hurt him. I know it will down the road. I mean, listen, it hasn't hurt him in 38 fights. One fight he lost in 38 fights. But what's your thoughts? Do you think they worked on that, or was it coincidental, or what?
I think they probably listened to you. I mean, really, you never know. I mean, but I think they worked on it. You know what? Maybe it was an evident problem that they've been trying to correct, and it's an old habit. And for whatever reason, they finally addressed it, and it looked like he minimized it, and it showed in his performance last night. I mean, not that it was a big deterrent, but as you suggested, in the upper echelon fighters in split second, anything can happen. And but Leo Santa Cruz was a real solid, strong display of what his boxing skills are all about, and his tenacity and his hunger to win and remain undefeated or a champion. He lost to one. I know.
On the undercard, there were 2 other fights. Omar Figueroa improved to 28-0 with a draw when he won a 10-round unanimous decision over John Molina. The way the judges scored this one, Sal, was 99-91, 98-92, and 97-93. I think it was a tough fight to score, but I think it boiled down to what we talk about so much on this show. The judging criteria, what's worth more, a bunch of light punches or a solid punch? The argument that the broadcast team, which I wasn't. Listen, Lennox Lewis is good, really good.
Yeah.
Joe Goosen, he's very knowledgeable, but he doesn't sound right doing a broadcast. And the blow-by-blow guy that they had this week was Mr. Albert. He wasn't. He's just not a boxing guy, A lot of eye candy with all the girls working that show. Boom Boom Mancini had some interesting things to say. But in my opinion, I did think that Figueroa won the fight. I mean, Molina did land some solid punches. But for the most part, Figueroa landed more. Not that I like to go by punch stats, but the punch stats indicated almost twice as many punches were landed. The other thing is that I think that John Molina doesn't know how to throw a punch. 50% of his punches he's landing with the heel of his glove, and it just seemed like he's
flat.
Yeah, well, he seems like he's using his arms like he had a club in them. The club fighter. I mean, that's the way he throws punches. Nothing crisp, nothing straight. And I think it's hurting him. I mean, it's not like you're going to change this guy at 36, 37 years old. But what was your thoughts on the fight? Did you think that the judges had it right? Or because the commentating staff seemed to think that Molina won that fight, or at the very least, it was the scores were out of whack?
Well, I think the scores could have been closer. And, it was a unanimous decision. And it seemed to be, fairly one-sided. I think our old friend Larry Hazard may have scored it differently, and as you suggested, some people thought that Molina was able to pull it out, but Figueroa did fight a tough fight. He threw a lot of punches, and I think that he in my eyes he did win the fight. I think it was closer than what the three judges scored it. But I thought that Figueroa was a busier fighter and threw some good punches. And as you suggested, I think Molina, when you're slapping with that glove, it's a easy fix even at any age. It's not an easy fix, but you gotta turn that fist over. You gotta deliver a punch. You gotta be a little bit more deliberate and decisive when you're landing, and with authority. And I don't know, it's something I think he should go work on a little bit, and leave the slapping to us.
The scores were out of whack. I mean, the one judge scored 99-91. I mean, he basically is saying that, Molina won one round. And, that's no way. Listen, I think the fight was close. I think that Figueroa might have stole the fight by a round. I wouldn't have been upset if it was a draw. I do think Figueroa won the fight, like I said, but I don't think he won by any of the scores that were indicated by the judges. Even the closest score that the judges had was 97-93, and I don't think it was even that close. Meaning, I think the fight was closer. I think that was out of whack. 97-93 was out of whack. It just. This is the problem I have with the PBC. The PBC fighters, it's the corruption is so obvious, and very rarely do I want to sound like Teddy Atlas, but let's be real. If the score of this fight was closer, if it was a 96-94 fight or even a 95-95, whatever, I don't think anybody could argue. But when you see scores like this, and you watch the fight, and if you're only going by punch stats, it could be justifiable. So that means a fighter that just jabs all night long and lands twice as many of those punches on his opponent, who's landing bombs away, rocking his opponent every time, that would suggest that the person landing twice as much with the jabs wins. Now, that's the way the amateurs score. There's no question. The amateurs score a punch. It could knock you on your butt or graze you, and they stand for the same value. But in the pros, it shouldn't be the case. I just, listen, again, I'm going to say it. I thought Figueroa squeaked out the fight, but no way near these scores, Sal.
No, and I agree with you, Bill, 100%. And even growing up in the amateurs, we used to say, well, we as amateurs, we would try to understand the judging, and we would say, well, I guess one solid punch could nullify 10 light punches. I mean, that was the math we used, and not that we were keeping punch stats or account, but it was something that we would talk about openly, or we would think about. That's why you had to not only be a busy fighter, but you had to try and score a good solid blow here and there all throughout the fight. It's something that I think really the fans deserve to have the clarity and the understanding of how a fight is looked at from the judges. And I think that, if there is maybe an explanation or somebody that wants to go out on a limb and give a little talk about it at a time before a big fight, maybe fans will say it's justifiable or not justifiable. Maybe they'll look at it. I mean, I think so many things that could change in boxing, would really enhance the game, and also maybe just get it back to where it used to be. I think they should also include a 13th round. They have the championship rounds. Last week we heard they started at the 9th round. Then we hear it was the 11th and 12th. But you know what? Why not have a 13th round? How many fights? How many big world championship fights? No matter where the position of the fighter was at, was decided in the 13th round by hook or crook or knockout.
The funny thing is I think that the matchups on paper have been pretty damn good over the last couple of years. It's just it just seems that every time there's a good fight, it gets marred by some kind of controversial decision or stoppage or something. I mean, in this case, I really believe that you got to knock the PBC fighter out twice in order to get a draw.
Right.
I mean, it's again, I don't want to. I'm not saying that Molina was totally robbed. He wasn't, but I think the fight was a lock. He deserved a closer score, if not a draw, than what he got. Also,
you go home with a 99-91 score in your head, saying, "Well, what the hell did I do? What was all my training about?"
I know. Well, the thing is,
you're fighting the system. Not only you have to fight the opponent, you got to fight the judges, the system.
The worst part is he was landing some flush shots. To Omar Figueroa's, to his ability to take a punch is what kept him on his feet. But anyway, to open that show last night, Sebastian Fundora improved to 12-0 with 8 knockouts when he stopped Donnie Marshall, who's previously beaten in the third round, 1 minute and 8 seconds of the third round to be exact. Marshall drops to 10-1. That was a junior middleweight fight, and it was pretty entertaining. It's going to be interesting to see how Fundora develops. He's so tall. I mean, he was taller than Lennox Lewis when you saw the photo of those two together, which is amazing.
Wow.
6'7" is what he comes in at. And it's going to be interesting to see. He's still a young kid, so how he fills out and stuff. He does have power. He did take some shots. Donnie Marshall landed some flush shots on him, so he's going to have to tighten up his defense a little bit. And one thing that was kind of interesting is for his height, Sal, his arm reach wasn't all that great. I mean, longer than you or I, but Donnie Marshall was only giving up an inch in arm reach, although he's given up 6 inches in height.
It's interesting.
Well, very interesting, but stupid.
Very interesting, but stupid.
Some big news. Some big news I wanted to talk about with you. We got Dax coming on and Alex, but I wanted to get your thoughts. It was signed, sealed, and delivered. A fight that I'm very unhappy with, but nonetheless, Anthony Joshua will be defending all of his titles. He's got the WBA, the IBF, the WBO, and IBO World Heavyweight titles. The only one he does not have is the WBC belt, which your boy Deontay Wilder has. But Jarrell Big Baby Miller, who's 23-0 with a draw, got his shot. I'm really disappointed in this fight. I'm torn between it, and I'll tell you why, Sal. In my opinion, Jarrell Miller has no business fighting for a world title. No business at all. And he is the example of what is 100% wrong with the sport of boxing. Here a guy, Jarrell Miller, who when you look at his resume, and amazingly enough, the computer ranks him at number 6, which is shocking in its own right. But if you look at his last 10 fights or so, his biggest wins, Gerald Washington was a good fight that he had back in 2017, only because of the significance that Gerald Washington stepped into the ring that night with. He was 18-1-1 against Miller, and it looked like two younger heavyweights meeting, which I was impressed with at that time. So I give him credit for that win. And the only other name on his resume that you got to give him somewhat credit for, even though the guy's 152 years old and was in all kinds of wars, was the Tomaz Adamak fight, which he had late last year in October. Aside from that, he's fought a collection of nobodies, and he mouths his way to a world title shot against Anthony Joshua. But here's the best part, Sal. Anthony Joshua against Jarrell Miller, which is taking place at Madison Square Garden in New York City on June 1st, already broke the pre-sale ticket limit, which is amazing since the tickets technically aren't even on sale. The pre-sale started on Friday, then they have the pre-sale starting on Monday, and then the regular tickets are going on sale on Tuesday. So they've already broken the boxing pre-sale record for Madison Square Garden. Here's a guy that's coming over from England. what does this tell you? He's going to be guaranteed his 20-something million. What does this tell you? I keep going back to Deontay Wilder, your idol, made a huge mistake in not fight. If you're going to just look at the money, because that's what people will use as a defense when they talk about Deontay demanding 50-50 and all of this stuff. He doesn't bring the value. This is a guy that doesn't even sell out. This is a guy that you wait until the night of the event before the asses get in the seats, and half the time they're giving tickets away. And Anthony Joshua, who's never fought in the U.S., who's fighting a bum that nobody's going to expect Miller to give him any kind of trouble, and he's going to sell out. You watch. This fight will be sold out before Wednesday, Sal.
No, I think you're right, 100% on the money, and no pun intended. But, every fight that Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder take in between their potential meeting is one fight more away from that ever happening. And, Miller could rise to the occasion and get lucky and do something. I don't think he will, but anything could happen any given night. So, that whole dream scenario of seeing that great fight and the unification of all the titles and the big paydays in the future, are all going to be predicated and riding on this fight coming up. And it's one way to say goodbye to a great opportunity for people not jumping on the bandwagon when the opportunity was available.
Well, I mean, what about the bottom line of Miller even getting this fight?
Well, again, the guy promotes himself, talks about it, puts it out there, does everything else, and it's not like the old days and where other people are doing that for you. I think he's got some backers behind him and everything else, but you gotta give him some credit for finagling and working his way into that whole consideration of the arena of him being a potential candidate for a world title. And so whatever he did to get there, hey, if it wasn't by the promoters, it was a joint effort and a little bit of himself, making himself known. And, that's the whole fight game. You're not only fighting your opponent, but you're fighting the whole system to try and finagle and get up to the top. And whatever he did by hook or crook, guess what? It worked.
Well, here's the truth of the matter. The truth of the matter is that Anthony Joshua, who is ranked number 1 by the computer, in his last 10 fights, and you could actually, I don't want to discredit Rafael Zambano, but he's a guy that's turned into nothing but a gatekeeper. So you take him out of the mix. And his last 10 were against all good opposition, if not Hall of Fame, like Vladimir Klitschko, and obviously undefeated. Alexander Povetkin, who going into this fight, you can make the argument that he was the number 1 fighter behind Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder in the heavyweight division. So, arguably the third best heavyweight in the world. AJ knocks him out in 7. Joseph Parker was a former world title holder. He was the first guy to go to distance with Anthony Joshua, but he had no chance of winning that fight. And he's a quality fighter. He'll be back in the mix if he's not already. Carlos Takam gave AJ all kinds of trouble because of the height difference, and AJ finally stops him. He stops Vladimir Klitschko, which was one of the greatest fights I've seen in quite a long time. Eric Molina knocks him out, same guy that your boy struggled with for 6 or 7 rounds. Dominic Brazil knocked him out in 7. Charles Martin, who we won a title from, knocked him out in the 2nd round. Dillian White, who's a top contender now, who's being ordered to fight yet again by the WBC to stay. And he's actually probably had the toughest road of all of them if you start adding and looking closely at his resume. But Dillian White goes 7 with him. Gary Cornish was undefeated, 21-0. A little beefed up record there, but still didn't get out of the first round. Kevin Johnson, who's claimed the fame, was a top fighter at one time, but he had never been stopped and gets knocked out in 2 by AJ. So here's a guy that has fought the toughest fights in the heavyweight division, and yet, Jarrell Big Baby Bum Miller gets a shot at him. It's disheartening, Sal.
Well, it could be, especially for those top contenders all vying for that number one spot to get in line for a title opportunity. But like I said, it's the way the bell bounces, not the bell, the glove, but yeah, by hook or crook, you try and get that title and secure that title shot. And it's Molina's turn. It's his opportunity. And, win, lose, or draw, he'll probably not get another one.
Well, the thing with the thing with the heavyweight division is, as long as you're active, you're gonna get shots.
Well, you're always in the mix.
Well, just some other heavyweight news: the WBC, which from all intent purposes, the WBC, the mandatory challenger was Dominic Breazeale for Deontay Wilder, but because they had to draw, the WBC actually, I thought, did the right thing by ordering the rematch between Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury. Now, what that caused was a interim title bout to take place between Dillian Whyte and Dominic Breazeale. Dillian Whyte happens to have the WBC silver world title, which is actually their fancy word for an interim belt. So that's actually a good matchup between those two fighters, and the winner will have to fight the winner of Deontay Wilder Tyson Fury, unless the winner of Tyson Fury Deontay Wilder fights Anthony Joshua next. But I actually like the Breazeale Whyte fight, even though they're really forcing Dillian Whyte to climb the ladder. I mean, what the sad part of it is, Sal, is that Dillian Whyte is doing what I wish all fighters did to get their title shots. Climb the ladder. Dillian's climbed it twice now.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's the old-fashioned way of earning your position, your top, and that's old school. That's good. And Dillian definitely, he fought his way to deserve to be where he is, and hopefully it'll be an honor, and him to get that opportunity again is very, very noble, because he did it the old-fashioned way, and it's good to see that it could still be done that way, and not just how much you bring to the table in form of financial.
Yeah, but that's the way it should be. What we're getting really with Dillian Whyte is you're getting a guy that's getting better. He's clearly a more dangerous fighter than he was when he fought AJ the first time. So really what's going to take place is, once the heavyweight division is clean of the Deontay Wilder Tyson Fury matchup, assuming that winner immediately fights Anthony Joshua, because if they don't, that's where the division is getting messy. See, if the winner of the Deontay Wilder Tyson Fury rematch fights Anthony Joshua in his next fight, we will have a defined heavyweight division with the winner of that fight being the top dog. But then all these other fighters, Sal, would have an opportunity to fight each other to earn the shot. Right now, there's side roads to the top, like Miller's taking. And, fighters that get these opportunities because, like you suggest, they got some financial backing or whatever, or they have a big mouth, and they get it. Now, for Anthony Joshua, I'm not knocking him for fighting Miller to make his 20, 30 million beating up a fat pig. I mean, and let's be real. I mean, Miller does throw a lot of punches, but this guy does not have, I am not going to give a guy credit for looking good when his opposition isn't good. You can only look good when you're fighting good opposition. That's my opinion, Sal.
It always has been, and it's one that's credible and respectable. And like I said, it's just going to be a matter of seeing these guys and making these fights come to fruition. And like you said, the whole card could be disrupted easily by an upset. And that's you almost want to see what would happen in that scenario. And maybe it would take something like that to clean it up. But until then, it is what it is. and we sit back, and we observe, we look, and we make comments. But the system has always been one that to be not tampered, not played with, but finagled. I think I like to use that word a lot today.
Well, it's the old saying, Sal. It's not what you know; it's who you know. And in boxing, it's no different. But anyway, listen, we're going to take a short break. We're going to kick Sal to the curb here for a little bit, and he needs to rest up anyway. He's been toe tapping, dancing.
You have no idea.
I do.
Have no idea.
I wish I was there. I wish I was watching.
I wish you were there too, Phil.
I wish I was watching my man Yankee Doodle Danny.
We've had sold out audiences every performance, and including today. I got to get back on that stage, and we have a great cast, great crew, and it's another sellout, and we even extended it another weekend. So that's how popular the show is.
I don't know, but you must be making tons of money doing all of this, Sal.
No, it's community theater. It's all free. Thank you.
Damn. All right,
don't
listen.
Don't tell my agent.
Yeah.
Look at 33 and a third. I have nothing.
I know. Listen, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're scheduled to have Dax Khan join us. Yes, Dax. He'll be with us in about 2.
Billy C will be right back.
Broken air conditioning, $4,400. Failing refrigerator, $2,500. Don't let outrageous repair and replacement bills like these bust your budget. Get the First American Home Warranty Plan. And when a covered appliance or system breaks, we'll repair it or replace it for you.
We had a high-end dishwasher go kaput. They put it in a brand new dishwasher.
We have plans that cover air conditioning, most appliances, plus heating, plumbing, electrical systems, and much more. Plans start as low as $25 a month. Why let a major appliance or system breakdown bust your budget or go through the hassle of finding trustworthy service people? Last year alone, we saved our customers over $120 million. Don't wait until something breaks and you're stuck with a huge bill.
You save a lot of money.
It's absolutely worth it.
If you don't have First American Warranty, get it.
Call 1-800-946-6234 for your free no-obligation quote.
Need relief from backaches and stiffness in your hips or down your legs? Then you need Dr. Ho's Back Relief Belt, the innovative technology to support and decompress your spine. And now it's covered by Medicare.
Every patient with back pain should be wearing this belt.
Nothing gave me instant relief except for the Dr. Ho belt.
Feel good while standing, walking, driving, doing housework, and while laying down. And now Dr. Ho's patented belt is available at our best price ever. It's even covered by Medicare. Order now and get the easy-to-use hand pump and back rehabilitation DVD free.
You know, similar belts can cost you almost $1,000, but my belts won't cost you $500, not $300, not even $200. I will give you my special TV price.
And remember, Dr. Ho's belt is covered by Medicare.
If you know a friend or family member that suffers with pain, get them my system today. Help them live with less pain, be more active, and get back to doing the things they love. Give them the gift of health.
Listen to this important message. If you owe money to the IRS, you will want to hear this. Penalties and interest compound daily on your back taxes, putting you under a mountain of debt. Tax 10,000 has years of experience connecting people with tax resolution specialists. Working through the IRS Fresh Start program, they will handle all the necessary forms, and if you qualify, you may end up saving thousands of dollars. Call Tax 10,000 at 800-773-4604. Listen.
Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace?
Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts! Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C. Show. Glad you could be with us. Don't forget to check out our 24-hour, 7-day-a-week television channel. Yeah. Well, it's this show plus a whole lot more. Check it out. You can get all the information. Sign up for a free account. You can watch us on Roku, Google Play, and a bunch of others. Just go to Ginico, GINIKOUSA.com. And sign up today. Joining us right now is my man Dax Khan. Good morning, Dax.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good.
Well, that's good. That's good. Santa Cruz and Rivera last night. Rivera hung in there for the distance, but Leo Santa Cruz dominated, in my opinion. What was your thoughts on the fight?
Yeah, I did. I thought Leo Santa Cruz dominated. Credit to Rivera. People didn't give him much of a chance. I mean, he really came out there swinging hard that first round. I think maybe if he was capable of maybe switching the tempo on his punches instead of throwing everything hard, it might have been even a closer fight. But, it was a good fight. Leo Santa Cruz looked very good. And I think Leo Santa Cruz versus Gary Russell Jr. is the fight to see if Gary Russell Jr. can be a little bit more active.
Yeah, that's always been his problem. Gary Russell, and he seems to duck some of those bigger fights. But getting back to Santa Cruz and Rivera real quick, do you think that Rivera, because I agree with you, I thought that he started out with a really good game plan, and I said to myself, either he's going to get stopped or he's going to make a fight of it. He didn't get stopped, and he didn't quite make it a fight, although he was never, getting blown away. Do you think that the activity level of Leo Santa Cruz shocks fighters? I mean, they watch him on film and they can anticipate it, but this guy throws punches nonstop. Do you think once they're actually in the ring with him that it throws off their game?
Yeah, I think that happens with a lot of fighters. It's not so much the activity, but once they realize that Leo can also take a punch and there's no real lulls in between there, that's what gets them. I mean, guys are able to, they train for, they spar, for activity, punches continuously coming at them. But, again, once it's on those levels and then the other things are incorporated, that's what really throws them off.
The other thing I noticed, I was mentioning to Sal a little bit earlier, was I didn't see Leo do that move with his glove. He didn't even start doing it until the fifth round, and he still wasn't doing it as much as he used to. Obviously, they worked on it. I mean, what's your thoughts of that? Because I tell you what, that's hard to take a fighter that has developed a habit, and at most cases, the trainers will just leave him alone with it because, they don't want him to focus on that. Sort of like, what was that guy's name? Allen, who kept looking down at his feet all the time.
Alan Green, yeah. Alan Green, yeah.
Remember he used to look at his feet. But did you notice that? And obviously they worked on it. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, who knows why? Maybe in the gym they've been working on it a little bit. Maybe Leo himself has just, kind of decided to deliver his punches a little bit better, in a little bit different fashion. Who knows why? Or, hey, maybe the next fight we'll see him just nonstop doing that thing with his glove again, who knows? We'll have to see. It depends on, the right opponent. Again, Rivera was looking, for every punch that he had out there, was looking to take Leo's head off. So, maybe Leo wasn't quite as relaxed and he was more on the defensive and stuff. So, who knows? We'll see. But, obviously that is a plus for him.
I'm with you. I would like to see Leo Santa Cruz fight Gary Russell in his next fight. I mean, he deserves another big name. He could continue to go on his merry way, dismantling the Rivieras of the division.
Just back to what you were saying about the value. His only loss came to Carl Froch, and
not
Carl Froch, another guy who
not Carl Froch. The other kid from England, Carl Froch, super middleweight.
No, I'm Frampton. I'm sorry.
Carl
Yeah,
Frampton.
Froch.
Yeah,
Frampton. His only loss came to Frampton, and Frampton, like Leo Santa Cruz, is a pressure fighter who throws a lot of punches. So maybe in that fight, Leo Santa Cruz was a little bit shocked that somebody came in with his own type of game plan. So you're right. It's a lot different to see it and study it than actually is to be in there, and it's constantly in your face.
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying earlier. It's hard to fight a guy that doesn't stop throwing punches no matter what. So. But those two Carl Frampton fights were good. He even mentioned that he wouldn't be opposed to a third fight because of how entertaining the first two were. But talk about an entertaining fight. The co-main event, Omar Figueroa fought John Molina in what I thought was an extremely entertaining fight. I have a feeling you disagree with who I thought won. I thought Figueroa squeaked out the win, but regardless, the scores were typical PBC scores, Dax, that are just becoming so disheartening because even though I do believe that Figueroa squeaked out the win, I don't believe that John Molina deserved even the best score he got of 97-93. What's your thoughts on that fight?
Well, first, mention of PBC. If you check my Twitter feed last night, I made, and I noticed in that count where continuously Omar Figueroa's punch numbers were going up, and a lot of those were landing on the hips, they were landing on the elbows. They weren't clean punches, so Omar Figueroa wasn't really landing as many punches as it seemed like. That you would actually that you could count. But again, John Molina, he was landing the cleaner and harder punches. If it wasn't for that rope, remember with the time when Omar Figueroa had his hand in the rope, he'd have went down. John Molina, he wasn't able to follow through with it, but I thought John Molina actually landed, the harder punches. I think, he stunned Omar Figueroa a few times. I had John Molina up by 2 points. I had it 96-94, but, I wouldn't have had a hard time if, Omar Figueroa was 96-94. But yes, like you mentioned, Sal mentioned, those scores were just unfair.
I agree with you 100%. The score should have been 96-94. Who you gave it to was either way okay. That's why I was saying that. I said it earlier that 96-94 is what I think that Figueroa won by. I would not have been upset if the same score for Molina, and I wouldn't have been uptight if the score was 95-95. I mean, that's the type of fight it was. It boils down to the same thing that I'm always wondering. What we need with judging criteria, Dax, is a hierarchy of how the rules to judge by are scored. In other words, does a guy he wins the fight by landing twice as many punches even though none of them have any zip behind him, versus the guy who stuns him with half the shots, but every shot he lands, he's sending a guy backwards. That's the argument that could be made if you watch this particular fight.
All right, whichever one you like, it's not so much the judging criteria, which I do agree. There is a criteria out there. It's
but there's no
Larry
order.
Hazard.
There's no order of
right.
it. Right.
Larry Hazard explains it clearly. But what we need to really look at in the sport is when we have a certain collective group of judges that are always with such a wide margin. It doesn't matter what fight they're doing, whether or not it's a local card, whether or not it's a title fight. When you always have that one guy whose score is 3 and 4 rounds separated from the other judges, those are the guys you have to keep an eye out for.
But this case,
you just got to get rid of them. It's bad for the sport. It's bad for the fighters. It's bad for business.
In this case, all three of them were scoring based on the same viewpoint, I guess. Yeah. So they were going. You'd have to make the assumption that they were going specifically on punches landed, and they were not looking at the damage the punch did. When Larry was doing his scoring, he was making it clear that he was scoring based on efficient punches landed, the punches that were landing the most efficiently, doing the most damage. My point is clear. All we need to do is make it a rule. Does the guy who lands more punches like they used to do in the amateurs, does he automatically win? Or do we got to give more value to the guy who lands one punch to your 3, but every time that one punch lands, it sends you back? I mean, that's really the issue here. You make a great point that the only reason we can't really go on a witch hunt, if you will, for any one of these judges is because they were all in the same neighborhood. If you had two judges that were 96, 94, and then you had that other one, 99, 91, now you have an argument. But these guys all saw it the same way, which is kind of strange when the guys sitting ringside, the commentating, and, of course, Larry Hazard all had it much closer.
Billy Costello, the late Billy Costello, I remember being at a fight card up in Albany, and Billy was a judge. And they had a guy on that card, I believe his name was Waylon Willingham, who was looking great. He was throwing a lot of punches against this other guy. But anytime this other guy would hit him, Willingham would just go back. He would really feel the effects of this. And I was talking to Billy afterwards, and he was the only judge who scored it for the other guy who didn't land as many punches. And I asked him, I said, well, Billy, why did you score for him when the other guys, they were house fighter judges more or less? He said, because, that guy, he looked good, but every time that other boy touched him, this was exact words, he said, every time that other boy touched him, he sent that mother effer back on his feet. And, so that's more or less what, you're saying is that, what are you going to count? You're going to count that volume that looks good, or you're going to count the effectiveness of the punches, like Larry Hazard was saying. But, again, as we see in broadcasts and we listen, if you just listen to the broadcasters on certain shows, especially like the PBC, you can already know who wins. Michelle Rosado made a comment last night on Twitter saying, I guess you have to have Omar Figueroa win because without Omar, I guess his brother Brandon can't get a fight. So we should see Omar in another 12 to 18 months. Omar Figueroa is a guy, he's a former champion. His real career, Bill, is only about 3 fights. Ever since then, he's had weight problems. He doesn't make weight. What are they doing with this kid? It's not fair to John Molina. It's not fair to the fans. And it's frustrating. I think Omar Figueroa is a guy that they're going to feed to somebody soon. He looked like a 38-year-old fighter, not a 29-year-old fighter last night, in terms of his body. And it's unacceptable.
I'll tell you one thing, and I mentioned it earlier with Sal. And I'm a fan of Molina. As a matter of fact, Joe Goosen was in the doing the broadcast, and that was one of the most famous fights I'll never forget, I should say, is when he was getting battered, and he comes to the corner. I think it was the 11th round, and Joe Goosen says, "You need a knockout," and Molina says, "Okay," and goes out there next round and knocks out and wins the world title. And I've always liked the kid ever since then. He's a warrior. But I'll tell you, he doesn't know how to deliver a punch, Dax. The way he hits with the heel of his glove, I mean, like he's got like he's Barney Rubble with a club in his hand. If he could just hit more, precise and straight on, maybe he takes Figueroa out of there.
Yeah, he's worn out. Understand? John Molina's worn out. He's been in a lot of wars. With a lot of very good fighters. And as you stated, a lot of late round knockouts come from behind wins. And anytime John Molina's ever lost, he's always lost on his shield, which is frustrating. That's one of the most frustrating points of the sport to me, when somebody gets, such a wide margin where they lose, where they deserve that fight to be closer, because these are the guys, or as you always say, the blue collar, the bring your lunch pail to work type guys that deliver for the fans continuously. They're the guys that actually make sure that you're getting your money worth for the ticket, even if you're not going to give the guy the win, or whether or not you're trying to edge the house fighter, or you just actually didn't think he won. You know what? Be fair to the guy. Be fair to the sport. At least let this guy know that it's not in vain. And it's very frustrating for everybody, in my opinion, and that's why you don't have a lot of fighters like a John Molina anymore.
Sebastian Fundora improved to 12-0 with a knockout, 1 minute and 8 seconds in the third round over Donnie Marshall, who went into this fight undefeated. What's your thoughts on this kid, man? I haven't really. I mean, he looks good, and I haven't. I want to see more, but I don't know if I can make a definitive opinion on him at this point. What's your thoughts?
I used to get a lot of press from him and a lot of video from him from Samson Leikowitz, and sit there saying to yourself, he doesn't look like he throws a hard punch. He kind of smothers his punch, and just before he landed that uppercut last night, that was going through my mind. He just let loose of this flurry, and I said, he doesn't look like he hits very hard. The next thing you know, the opponent goes down. So this is a kid, I think he's going to have a hard time when he steps up in level of competition with these guys that are a little bit more compact or a little bit more skilled. If he goes in there and he tries to fight the same style, I think if this kid learns how to, utilize his height, because, you made an excellent reference earlier in the show, his reach, despite his height, isn't that much longer than the average guy in his division. So if he learns how to deliver his punches, he learns how to stand tall and fight from a distance, this kid's going to be something serious. If he continues fighting the way he is, he's not going to really reach that next level. He's going to kind of fall down there, kind of like an Atlantis Fox. The very first time he steps up, he's going to he's not going to rise to the occasion.
The thing is his style, like you suggest, it doesn't take advantage of his natural, height and stuff. And I think that his legs are going to be his undoing. I think you're right. A compact fighter with some pop, more pop than Donnie Marshall possessed. I mean, he did have 6 knockouts of his 10 wins, but not against questionable opposition. I don't know. I think Fundora is the type of guy that he grew too fast in a sense. He's he's sort of like a smaller version of Deontay Wilder, but not with the power. I mean, they have the same legs, and we'll have to see as time goes on.
The infighting, the 154-pounder guys, they're big physically in mass. Can you imagine somebody like Fundora going in there against, let's say, a Jarrett Hurd, trying to muscle him around and let off those combinations? Jarrett Hurd would just bully him. So again, that's why, in my opinion, it's going to be important for him to learn how to utilize his height and fight from a distance. They mentioned Tommy Hearns several times last night, and you just mentioned the legs, and that was Tommy Hearns' downfall. He had such skinny legs, but he could hit so hard. But Sebastian Fundora hasn't showed that pop yet. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, we can't compare. Tommy Hearns had freakish, but Tommy Hearns was a better example of Deontay Wilder. The only difference is that Tommy Hearns had all kinds of boxing skill. Deontay doesn't, and I think this kid shows that he does have some ability. We'll see if his body fails him. AJ and Baby Miller. Signed, sealed, and delivered for June 1st at Madison Square Garden. They already broke the boxing Madison Square Garden pre-sale. I've never heard so many versions of pre-sale tickets in my life. Tickets used to go on sale, and then they went on sale. First come, first serve. Now they have pre-sale, 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 then the regular sale. By the time you get to by the time tickets are available, it's going to be sold out. Dax, what's your thoughts? That's like a yogiism. The tickets went on sale and it was sold out. But anyway, what's your thoughts on the desire for AJ in New York? I still can't help but go back to Deontay Wilder making such a poor business decision, turning down the offer of a 3-fight deal with AJ. He still wouldn't have made. He's got to fight. The money that he walked away from, I have no idea what he's going to make for the rematch with Tyson Fury, but obviously AJ's a draw here in the States, making his debut on June 1st.
Yeah, he is a draw, obviously. Any point in time throughout history, the heavyweight champion, when you have somebody recognized as the heavyweight champion, they're a draw. I always go back to Vladimir Klitschko, in that decade-long reign of his. People, maybe his style was, a little boring, wasn't the most exciting. And in the United States, the heavyweight division, because you had no real U.S. fighters at the top, it wasn't a draw. But, when you went to other parts of the country, Vladimir Klitschko packed the house. Now we have the internet more, we have the apps, and everything incorporates. So Anthony Joshua has a better promoter, and with all those titles, that's why he's such a big draw. The heavyweight champion is the draw. Now Deontay Wilder, he's a champion, but he's a belt holder, and in my opinion, between the British fans, which are fabulous, they travel, and the fact that the promotions of Anthony Joshua, the team that he has behind him, that's what's making him such a huge draw, and why so many people want to see him when he comes here for his first fight, no matter who the opponent is. I don't care who it was. I think Anthony Joshua would have sold just as well coming into this fight. As for Deontay Wilder kicking himself, that, in my opinion, that was a little bit of an ego problem with the two of them, where it's each guy feeling that they were worth a little more. Deontay Wilder, is the top dog here. Anthony Joshua, the top dog over there, and now the top dog in the division period because he has more of the belts. But I'm sure that Deontay Wilder's rethinking himself. In my opinion, though, whatever happens, if with the rematch with Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury, if that should take place over in the United Kingdom, and let's say Deontay Wilder wins, I think that actually puts Deontay Wilder in the driver's seat because now he's the lineal champion and he's the WBC champion, and so I just actually think that Anthony Joshua, and I've been very vocal about this, he's been more of the hinder for this than anybody. And if you stated something earlier saying if it was based just on money, yes, I'm sure Deontay Wilder's kicking himself. But in the long run, like Sal said, anything can happen in between one of these fights. Somebody can lose. Anthony Joshua can lose when he fights Jarrell Miller, whether it happens or not, but it is a possibility. So it's, whichever one of these guys don't come through and make this fight with each other is going to be sorry, because once the loss comes in this era, that's it. Your train is done. It's a good thing that they're making so much money.
There is a possibility that it snows in Lake George, New York in August too, but the chances of it happening are very slim, like Jarrell Miller's chance of beating Anthony Joshua. And quite honestly, I think Deontay Wilder and or Tyson Fury, whoever ends up losing, it's not going to diminish their value or the desire for an Anthony Joshua fight. I think that's one advantage both Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder have. I do agree with you that should Deontay Wilder beat Tyson Fury in England or anywhere in the UK, I should say, that would get him a better opportunity money-wise to fight Anthony Joshua, whether it be a 50-50 split or not. But that's a tall order because I don't see the fight going any differently than the first one. And the only difference is if Deontay can land a shot that would actually keep Tyson Fury down. What's your thoughts on the WBC ordering Dominic Breazeale against Dillian Whyte? I mean, you've been on the Dillian Whyte bandwagon since he hit the scene, and you've always talked very highly of this guy. And he's obviously, when you take a close look at the heavyweight division, he's obviously the guy who's earned his shot and has gotten better and better, and clearly has fought the best opposition compared to his counterparts. What's your thoughts?
Well, exactly how you stated earlier in the show, and you stated just now, it's not that I'm on the Dillian Whyte bandwagon. It's I appreciate the path that he's gone. As Sal also stated, I appreciate the fact that Dillian Whyte is earning his way up the ladder. Yes, he had that early fight with Anthony Joshua where he lost, but he rocked Anthony Joshua in that fight. He got caught later on, he got knocked out, but he's grown since then, and he's become a better fighter, and he's more dominant every time out. What's frustrating to me is the fact that he is becoming so dominant and he's winning every time he goes out, and winning in more spectacular fashion with common opponents like Joseph Parker. I think that he dominated him better than in a more impressive fashion than Anthony Joshua did. And Dillian Whyte, he's kind of getting short. Why should he have to fight Dominic Breazeale? I don't see it. I don't know why he should have to. And again, it's all about money. But I actually think that this benefits Dillian Whyte in a way, because as the rest of these guys are out there and they're going back and forth and they're arguing over this one fight and these paydays, Dillian Whyte is slowly creeping up and he's slowly getting better. And by the time he gets into the ring with either one of these guys, he's going to really dominate them. He's going to make a showcase out of them.
Look at the options that Dillian Whyte is going to end up having, Dax. Not only will he definitely get a shot at the winner and loser of a potential fight between AJ and Deontay Wilder, but don't forget about Tyson Fury too. I mean, Dillian Whyte is in the mix to fight all three of those guys, regardless of how they fare against each other. And that's a pretty good position to be in. And as it unfolds, the only guy standing in the way right now is Dominic Breazeale, which, I have always thought that he was underrated. He's very slow. He's got no defense. He's got a solid chin. Obviously the body work of Dillian Whyte is going to chop down the Dominic Breazeale tree, but we'll see, man. I think he's in a great position long term in the heavyweight division, just like you said.
I think right now the heavyweight division itself is in great shape. For a lot of the younger fans who don't remember, even we'll go back to the 90s, which I believe is probably the second greatest era for heavyweight boxing, period. Right now we have Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua as the champions. We have Tyson Fury. We have Dillian White. You have a young guy like Daniel Dubois who's getting better and coming up. And, no matter who fights each other in there, you have a great circle. And, again, reinforcing what you stated, no matter who loses either one of those fights, anybody in that circle matches up well against each other. And we have new guys coming in. We have new talent coming up. And if the heavyweight division continues like that, and as long as the fights get made, the heavyweight division in another year or two will once again finally be the flagship division of the sport. If the heavyweight division thrives, boxing thrives, period.
There's no question about that. But you know what? I kind of want to add something to what you said with the heavyweight division. I agree with you that the heavyweight division is in a good place right now, but I only think in the upper echelon. Yes, there's some interesting lower level heavyweights out there, but the fact that the roads that they travel, a la Jarrell Miller, is what prevents it from being a really great era in boxing. When you go back to the one of the greatest eras of all time in heavyweight boxing in the 60s and 70s, those guys all fought each other on the way up. They all got better. We got to see, all these great matchups. Well, today, yes, we have an upper echelon handful of guys that are all very good, and we all want to see them fight each other. But the fighting each other part is what doesn't happen as much. So you get a lot of these young guys climbing the ladder, and they don't really get tested until they fight an upper echelon guy, like what's going to happen on June 1st. Jarrell Miller mouthed his way into a title fight, and, he's going to look, hey, listen, maybe he shocks the world and beats AJ, but I'm anticipating him to look like he's in a different league.
And you know what, Bill? I agree with you that, they're not fighting each other like they should, but I don't blame the fighters. I believe that no matter who it is, all these fighters want to fight each other. They want to fight the best. You have to blame the promoters. You have to blame the networks. If there wasn't 5 world titles, if there wasn't 6 different streaming platforms, 4 different TV networks that everybody was contracted to and everybody was obligated to, that promotion goes beyond what's just happening in the room between the two promoters and the fighters. They also have, to meet obligations and deal with, the networks, who's going to broadcast, who's going to get rights, and so on and so forth. And that's what hinders the sport. But if you only had 1 network or 2 networks and you only had, let's say, 3 title belts, WBA, WBC, and IBF, the things would be a lot different. It's everything else that goes in there that what makes it, that really complicates the picture and the scene, in my opinion.
No, you're right. Dax, it was great to have you back. We look forward to you next week. We're going to take a short break, and we'll see you soon, brother.
All right, everybody, enjoy the day.
You can check Dax's column up on BillyCBoxing.com. We'll be back in 2.
Billy C will be right back.
Osteoarthritis in one or both knees? If you have osteoarthritis in one or both knees, are you on Medicare, Obamacare, or other health insurance? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a prescription strength solution for osteoarthritis of the knees, covered by Medicare at little to absolutely no cost to you. We also offer a prescription strength topical pain relief ointment that can be used for pain experienced on other areas of your body. Our experienced staff will work with your doctor and handle all of your Medicare or insurance paperwork. Best of all, your prescription is shipped directly to your home for free. Will you qualify for a prescription strength solution for osteoarthritis of the knee or for a topical pain relief ointment covered by Medicare or private insurance at little or no cost to you?
Find out for free by calling the Back and Knee Pain Center at 1-800-604-1072. That's 1-800-604-1072, 1-800-604-1072.
Medical alarms for people who fall or have medical emergencies. You never think you'll need one until you do. Hi, I'm Lonnie Anderson for Advantage Alert. Today, our advanced systems locate and protect people inside and outside their homes, plus when they're on the road, allowing users with the press of a button to speak with an operator who can summon help. And even after 30 years, Advantage Alert's products remain amazingly affordable.
Call 800-985-1705.
Addiction is an epidemic in America. If you or someone you love is struggling with addiction, you need to call the R360 Network now.
I'm Ken Seeley, author, addiction recovery specialist, and former addict. R360 is a nationwide network of addiction recovery specialists that I personally selected and recommend.
The call is free, the consultation is free. If you have private insurance, your treatment could be covered with no out-of-pocket cost.
Call 800-705-0023.
Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace?
Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
Hey, fight fans, check out KOFantasyBoxing.com. KO Fantasy Boxing is boxing's only trademarked fantasy game. Check it out, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Select your own gym, your own fighters, track them through a season that can last from 3 months to a year, depending upon which league you join. You got to check this out, man, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Join it today. Again, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. And tell them Billy C sent ya.
The one, the only, Don King.
Makes me feel good, Billy, to have you, the #1 show in the country, talking boxing with Billy. So I invite each and every American that's listening to this great show to tune in, because we want you to be there with Billy and me.
Now back to Talking Boxing with Billy C., the only radio host man enough to take a punch from Mike Tyson.
Wait a minute, man. Hold on there. Jeremy, man, I need you to take this one, all right?
Wait, what? No way. I can't do this.
Need I remind you I'm Billy C., damn it? Now put on that mustache and get in there.
Hey, look at me. I'm Billy C. Crap.
The undisputed heavyweight champion of Boxing Talk Radio. It's Talking Boxing with Billy C.
Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C. Show. Glad you could be with us. And I was going to have my man Alex Papali join us, but after his comments to me, picking on me in the chat room, but no, we'll bring him on. Despite his shenanigans, joining us right now is my man Alex Papali. Good morning, Alex.
Good morning, Billy C. How are you?
You know, I'm not even going to mention his name. You know, the funny thing about it is he was at one time, the guy you mentioned was at one time a guy that there were some hopes for, but you know, they couldn't get him to, you know, do that thing. What do they call it? Oh, yeah, train, you know. What's your thoughts on Leo Santa Cruz and Rivera? Did you think that give me your thoughts of the whole fight.
I thought it was an enjoyable fight. I mean, I thought we kind of saw two similar fights in the main events of ESPN and then Fox last night in that you know, it was largely one-sided fight where one guy was just a bit stronger. But both guys, the guys who won with Rob Brandt and Leo Santa Cruz in their respective fights, were just tremendous volume punchers. And, you know, I think it's a lesson to young kids who are just starting this sport, any young fighter. Nothing beats a high, it's hard to beat a high work rate. When you have that much incoming fire, it's difficult for a guy to adjust to that. I thought that Santa Cruz looked good. I was impressed with Rivera because I got the feeling that I thought he was going to burn out in 7 or 8 rounds at the most, but he never did, to his credit. I did like, you know, Santa Cruz still does that little...
Not as much.
He's definitely breaking himself of it. And one of the things I noticed, I don't know if you saw this, but...
Rivera was doing it.
Yeah, he was doing it back to him, and at one point, Santa Cruz did kind of laugh. It's just one of those nervous tics or whatever. It's a habit he picked up. Just like some guys who, every time they punch, they make that noise. Who was that guy who, I can't remember, who was on the rise a while ago, who made a lot of noise every time he punched? Otherwise, I thought it was a good fight. I mean, it's hard not to think that, the big story was that weird decision. You kind of knew it was coming. I did not score that fight round by round. So I can't disagree and say, well, I had it 7-5 Molina, or I had it 8-4 the other way, whatever. But, you got to go with Larry Hazard, friend of the show. He's, he knows what he's doing. So I do give credence to his card, and, with him being right there. And I think the other signs that it was just, something shifty was just how long it took to get the decision. And then that, as they read the cards, they got progressively worse.
I know.
The 99-91 card is just, come on, that was ludicrous. It was disappointing because you couldn't help but think, well, are they trying to protect this kid because he's coming off such a long layoff? I don't know. There's no smoking gun. You can't say, oh, yeah, that was fixed. But it is disappointing. It's another one of those things that if you're a fan of the sport for a long time, there's fights on every card that break mystifyingly in the direction of the promoter's fighters. That's just what happens.
To talk about the Molina fight real quick and Figueroa, that's why I keep saying that we need to have the judging criteria organized. It's in an order in which you put more value. Everyone knows the judging criteria rules. It's the specific judges that put, volume punching versus power punching and how they categorize it, or I should say prioritize it. And with Larry Hazard, he obviously prioritized it with the more meaningful and damaging punches versus just landing the punches. But the argument here is that all three judges were in that neighborhood. And I agree with you. There's no way that you can convince me that Molina only won 1 round on one scorecard, 2 rounds on another, and only 3 on the other. I mean, we're talking about a 10-round fight. I happen to have scored it 96-94 for Figueroa. But I wouldn't have, Larry had it the other way. A draw wouldn't have bothered me. It's just seeing those scores. But then you can't really say robbery because they were all in the same neighborhood. Now you have to say, oh, did they pre-fill out, their scorecards? And maybe that's what took so long. They couldn't, the current scorecard and the ones they pre-filled out were stuck together and they had to organize them. I don't know. But that was disheartening. But getting back to Santa Cruz Rivera for a second, you said something that, to me, I hope kind of rings home with some of the young fight fans and young fighters that are considering becoming fighters. What Leo Santa Cruz and, for the most part, Rafael Rivera demonstrated last night was volume punching. And not only is it exciting, but it wins fights. The other issue was the thing that you don't normally think about when you think of Leo Santa Cruz is he's kind of hard to hit. I mean, he's right in front of you, and he's throwing all these punches that you just can't, you can't defend against all of them. You can maybe work him a little bit in the beginning of the fight, but as time goes on, his output doesn't slow down. As a matter of fact, he increases his output. You're trying your hardest. You're grazing him at best, if not missing him entirely. And to me, that's more of a definition of the sweet science. Somewhere along the line, and I don't want to mention who ruined the sport, but somebody made some young fans believe that being defensive meant that you were running and dancing and bouncing all around. But the truth of the matter is Leo Santa Cruz, like some of the early great defensive fighters of boxing history, is standing right in front of you, throwing tons and tons of punches, and you can't hit him. But he's still in range to hit you. That's the sweet science, in my opinion, Alex.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could argue that the sweet science encompasses both, but you're right, absolutely, that the sweet science doesn't mean only a defensive fighter. A guy who uses a lot of science could also be a very offensive fighter. And that's, I guess to you, Floyd Mayweather is pretty offensive.
Yeah, he is.
But no, I mean, somebody like Leo Santa Cruz, offense is what he's there for. And you're right. That does create, because if you're throwing constantly and throwing lots and lots of punches, then your opponent, it is that old saying, a good offense or whatever, the best offense is a good defense or whatever the saying goes. Because you're forcing the guy to react constantly. He's never having his own chance to set up. He has to risk punching while you punch, which is a dangerous thing. It's, the anxiety level of doing that is much higher. You got to stay in a more dangerous range. So, yeah, you definitely, both guys, both Brandt on Friday night and Santa Cruz last night, used that very effectively on their opponents. And you saw Rivera handled it better than Basingurov did. Basingurov eventually folded. He was struggling with a badly bloody nose, and, they're a higher weight class. So, of course, when you get hit with lots and lots of punches, when you're heavier, they're going to have more of an effect.
All right, so here's the big baby question. Big Baby AJ, June 1st, Madison Square Garden. I don't know how many pre-sale opportunities you get to have, but the pre-sale record has been broken, not to be confused with the pre-sale that's going to be available tomorrow. And then, of course, the regular sale, which hopefully there'll be a few tickets left by then, goes on sale Tuesday. First and foremost, what's your thoughts on the fight itself, Alex?
I like the fight. I'm sorry. I don't mind Big Baby Miller at all. I'm glad he stopped doing the diaper. I wasn't too fond of that. But I've liked him over his last few fights. You're right. There's not, his record is not exactly a rogues gallery of the heavyweight division. However, just like we just said about the other two guys we've been talking about, Jarrell Big Baby Miller is a gigantic human being who throws lots and lots of punches, and he's got quick hands. And for a heavyweight, I don't know, for me, it's a lot easy. It's pretty easy to forgive almost everything else when you got a heavyweight who does that. So I like Miller. I'm very excited for this fight. I wish I was going, but I'll probably see it here at home because I want to be going to the Canastota a couple of weeks later. And the tickets, I just looked, are graded between $294 for the cheap seats, almost up to $3,500 for, the J-Lo, Ja Rule section of seats. I don't know. I look forward to it being a good fight. I don't see Anthony Joshua having too many problems with him. I don't know. I'm very excited about the heavyweight division right now. I was listening to what you and Dax were saying. I see your point that there is sort of a bit of a gap between the top guys and everybody else. But I don't know. For me, the top three guys, I am just thrilled about all three of them. I'm very happy with a Wilder versus Fury rematch. I'm okay with that, waiting for Wilder versus Joshua. I'm actually kind of waiting for Joshua versus Fury because, quite honestly, I think Fury will beat Deontay Wilder if they fought every day in a week. I think Fury would beat him every day. It's about styles. I thought Fury deserved the decision in the first place. I think eventually Joshua Fury is going to be the fight, and it's going to break the bank and attendance records. But I have no problem waiting if we get, a Wilder versus Fury 2 and we get Joshua versus Big Baby Miller. If after that we even get Joshua versus Dillian White 2, I wouldn't mind it. I guess, Bill, I mean, they're going to make these things marinate. That's what they do. They like to marinate.
Yeah. Well, the division, they're talking in some of the chat rooms about other eras, and, the 60s and 70s were so great, and they're talking about the 90s as being a great era. Dak's got that going. It's because there were so many non-champion heavyweights fighting each other that made those eras so great. You had your one champ, so all the other guys had to fight each other to earn their shot at the champ. Today, there's sidestep availability because there's a couple of different champs, so whichever is the easiest road. That's how Jarrell Miller even gets his chance. From Anthony Joshua's point of view, to make between 20 and 30 million to fight Jarrell Miller in the U.S. Is a layup. And you're right. He could connect and it could change the course of history, no doubt. But as soon as this fight was, they had a press conference the other day. Jarrell Miller said, and I quote, "AJ's making a huge mistake coming over here to fight me in my own backyard. He wants to announce himself on the American stage, but all he's doing is delivering me those belts by hand. It's dog eat dog in the ring, and this dog has got a bigger bite. He'll be leaving New York empty-handed. This is the fight that I've been chasing all my life, and on June 1st, I'm going to achieve the thing I was born to do and win the heavyweight championship of the world. That punk AJ is standing in the way of my dreams, and on June 1st, he's getting run the hell over." To me, that sounds like 100% Vince McMahon-ish, WWE, WWF. I mean, this is a guy, Jarrell Miller. I mean, he ducked, Kubrat Pulev. He had a mandatory. Somehow he ducks him. This is a guy that has his biggest thrill is to get this fight because he's going to be financially set after this fight. This is what he fought for. To slip and slide his way into a title shot. And that's what's happening. This isn't an earned shot. A guy like Dillian White, he's paid his dues. He's earned a shot. Tyson Fury, with his ups and downs, his performance alone against Deontay Wilder in the last fight show that he's earned to be in the discussion. Even Deontay Wilder, up until 2 fights ago, when he fought Ortiz and then, of course, Tyson Fury, that's when he finally earned, at least in my eyes, to be recognized as a legitimate champ. Up until then, he fought nobody. So, I mean, it's a continuing saga for the heavyweight division. Dodge your way to the top is the mantra these days, and eventually they got to fight each other, Alex.
Yeah, I mean, I think that those, a lot of that is valid, absolutely, and that, like you had said earlier, that it's not what you know, it's who you know. Sure, that's probably most glaringly obvious in the heavyweight division, because the heavyweight division is, where you can make a really big name for yourself overnight with one fight, with one punch sometimes. All that said, I'm not really against it because I think that I think this will be a good fight for boxing. I think one of the worst things about the only bad thing about Anthony Joshua, I think, is that not a lot of people over here know him.
Really? Well, there must be enough to know him since he's going to sell out Madison Square. I guarantee you that fight will be sold out by Wednesday, Alex.
No, absolutely. I hear you. But I mean the people, the people I don't care about. The mainstream.
Oh, those people? Well, I got to assume that the mainstream people have heard enough about him. He's on all the I mean, if you go to, even in New York, especially in New York, he's on billboards and stuff. He's got,
that's what. Well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, but I'm saying he's a commodity that businesses want to align themselves with. Who the hell wants to align themselves with a guy like Deontay Wilder who says I'm going to kill somebody in the ring? I really am. I just feel like I'm going to kill somebody. Or a guy like Floyd Mayweather and all his antics. Who the hell want these types of businesses stay as far away? As a matter of fact, the last business that Floyd Mayweather aligned himself with, wasn't it like some kind of pyramid scheme that he and a basketball guy that said to, I forget the company, but it was basically invest money into this company, and it was all a sham, but it's just, listen, Anthony Joshua is more well-known in the heavyweight division worldwide, and forget worldwide, in the United States, than Deontay Wilder is, Alex. It's true that more people, I'll tell you, that look at Deontay Wilder, hasn't even been able to sell out any stadium except the one in Alabama where he's from. Every other one, they've had tickets available all the way up until fight night. So you watch this. Anthony Joshua is going to sell out Madison Square Garden by Wednesday, and then they're going to redesign the seat plan for that just to add more seats. I guarantee you. My crystal ball doesn't lie, Alex.
No, that'd be. I hope you're absolutely right, but I think about it. He's going to get a lot more. Both of these guys will get a lot more media attention than they have, at least American media attention. And remember, I mean, the American memory hole is wide and deep. And unless you're, happening at, a commodity today, people forget about you. So think about it. That week, those 2 weeks going up to the fight, it's going to be in New York, so they'll be in New York. They'll be doing all the stupid shows, like The View. I wouldn't be surprised if one of these guys pops in on The View, pops in on some of the morning shows like Good Morning America or something, or the Today Show, third hour, which is the hour where viewers are most likely to take their own lives. I think that once you're in New York, for a fight that's at the Garden, there will be a lot more hype for both these guys, and then they're there in person. So somebody like Anthony Joshua, who's got, a lot of charisma, will do well for that. Hey, maybe they'll be on Kelly Ripa. So
I'd like to be on Kelly Ripa.
I mean, it's New York City, and what's the saying? If you could make it there, you could make it anywhere. If
Sal was on the line, he'd break out in song right now because of this. But I got one other thing I wanted to talk to you about. A fight that should be getting way more attention than it is. Errol Spence against Mikey Garcia, which is taking place March 16th. They had their official on stage in front of everyone stare down. They announced the undercard. The PBC is such, it's a bittersweet scenario because they are bringing some fights to us, and I appreciate that. But none of them seem too competitive. Here we got this great fight, Mikey Garcia trying to make history, stepping in with many regard as possibly the best welterweight in the world with Errol Spence, and they surround him with a great undercard. Yes? No. How about former middleweight champ David Benavidez taking on Jarrell Love? Now, that's actually a meaningful fight, but neither one of those fighters. I mean, Jarrell Love doesn't throw enough punches. Benavidez throws a lot, but we'll see what happens there. But how about Louis Neary taking on McJoe Arroyo? Excuse me. And Chris Arreola coming back for another beat, taking on Jean-Pierre Augustin. I mean, I would have expected a little better matchups to accompany Spence Garcia. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed in hearing those two. I just when they showed the ad for that last night, I was excited because I guess I didn't realize it was pay-per-view. Or maybe I had forgotten or whatever, but that means I got rid of my cable box now. So that means we're going to the movie theater, which was a lot of fun for Fury versus Wilder. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to the main event so much that it doesn't surprise me that maybe we'll get some caca on the undercard, but hopefully maybe there'll be some. I don't know. That the Benavidez Love bout could be interesting. But you're right. Yeah, it doesn't sound like we're going to get much.
Jalen Love just isn't an exciting fighter. I mean, that's one of the big problems with him. He's just a snoozer.
I mean, what do you think? I guess for me, I'm intrigued by Spence Garcia. I still don't know what we're going to see. It's as much as it's an exciting fight. It's difficult to envision how it's going to go down. I'm really looking forward to seeing that one.
I'm telling you right now, and I've said this before, and when they first announced it, but I think Mikey Garcia is going to shock the world, man. Mikey Garcia is one of these kinds of fighters that the reason why I like him so much is that he gets it. You throw 3 punches at him and land 3, he's throwing 6 to 8 back at you. His job, his game plan, regardless of his opponent, he'll change the style and maybe the approach of the game plan, but the basis of the game plan is always the same. Land more punches than your opponent lands on you every round. He tries to win every round. And yes, he's going to be in there with a bigger, stronger guy, but let's be real. We all love Errol Spence. We all know that he beat Kell Brook for the title, and that was a feat in itself. But you know what? When you really dissect his resume, and when you look at the quality opposition, obviously we're talking different weight classes, but the quality of opposition between the fighters that Mikey Garcia has fought and the fighters that Errol Spence has fought, I'm sorry, but I do not think that Mikey Garcia is in this just for the money. He could have got the same kind of money fighting Lomachenko. This guy sees something, and I'm telling you right now, don't fall asleep on Mikey Garcia. This is not going to be an easy fight for Errol Spence.
No, I agree with you 100%, and I think that's what makes it so fascinating. Is it is very much, it seems like a vision quest fight where Garcia sees something, he picked it, he knows he could do it. For me, that's very scary because the last time that happened was Sugar Ray Leonard versus Marvelous Marvin Hagler. At least in a heart-stabbing way for me. But so I don't know. It does. That says a lot about the kind of athlete we're talking about. That he knows enough about himself that he could make a leap like that. But yeah, Errol Spence is green, so maybe he sees that. To think that Errol Spence is an easier fight than Lomachenko, or a more likely fight that he could win, yeah, that's a big, bold move, I think. As good as Lomachenko is, I don't know. I still think you're always risking more when you fight a bigger guy. And a young, hungry tiger of a guy, I don't know.
Yeah, but
very good fight, very tantalizing fight. I can't wait.
But Spence might be taking Garcia lightly. He didn't look like he was in that great a shape in some of the photos I've seen. Mikey looks just the same size, so we'll have to wait and see, man.
I mean, if Garcia wins, then Garcia Crawford. Oh, wow.
Garcia, right away, guys like you putting him in with somebody else. I mean, come on, let him get by Spence, and if he should get by, let him enjoy it a little,
Well, that's how good your argument was.
No.
You had me beating him.
yeah. Oh, geez, I was surprised you didn't say, if he gets by Spence, Tyson Fury's next for him.
That's
for
right.
sure.
Usyk.
Yeah.
Fight Usyk.
you back. He's dodging Usyk, that Mikey Garcia. Alex, great job. We look forward to you next week, my man.
All right, Billy C. Take care.
That's Alex Papali giving us his thoughts on some of the fights. And I'm telling you guys, don't underestimate the whole situation with Mikey Garcia because I'm telling you, I have this strange feeling. The last time somebody said, I see something, was Joe Lewis when he got knocked out. It wasn't Joe Lewis saying it, but Max Schmeling said it. So, but in any event, I got some emails I wanted to read, and right now I'm waiting for my man. What's his name? No, my man Sal to get back with us, which he will here in a sec. But some other fights that were announced. I wanted to make this one statement here. Don King has aligned himself with Bebop Shumanov. And Bebop Shumanov was retired, then came back and won the WBA Cruiserweight title. He was a former light heavyweight champion. And they had a purse bid fighting his mandatory opponent, Arsen Goulamarian. And Don King won the purse bid, $821,000, and Goulamarian's promoter bid $621.5. So it's going to be interesting to see if that fight happens. The last three Don King purse bids that he won, he ended up pulling out. So we're waiting for Sal to get his camera turned on. So up until then, I got some emails to read. This first one is from my man Jesse. He says, Billy, Ramirez versus Zepeda was a good, close fight. Ramirez struggled with Zepeda's movement and left hand, and the headbutts made both fighters timid and doubting. Ramirez should have pressured and gone inside to the body more, followed by going upstairs with combinations because Zepeda didn't like the pressure and didn't want to exchange inside. Ramirez's defense failed, was missing a lot of shots. He still wants to throw everything hard, but he must learn to change speeds, angles, feints, and set up better because he wants top guys like Crawford. Ramirez versus Hooker, Cano, Ulysses, or Postal if no Crawford or top guys. Zepeda versus any top to 20 fighter. I think we got Sal back, but no video. Is that correct, Sal?
I keep trying, Bill, and I think you kicked me to the curb one too many times.
Well, just you know what they say. You got to get up and try harder. That's all. Get up and try harder.
I'm picking myself up. I keep trying to get that camera to go. Maybe it will.
Well, in any event, I'm reading some emails, so we'll get your thoughts. They were talking about the fight from last week. I actually rewatched that fight, and I think Jesse hit it right on the head with that. He goes on to say, Tank, meaning Gervonta Davis, has to face top guys. He's just being fed okay fighters. He should be fighting Burchett, Cancio, Ito, and possibly Jojo Diaz. I think Jojo Diaz will be Tank Davis's next fight, even though we all want to see him against Lomachenko, Sal.
Oh, yeah. I definitely think that would be a hell of a fight. And whether it's inevitable or possible, we'll see. I think it's all doing the marination process, you know.
The last thing Jesse wants to know is what's your thoughts on Areola against Jean-Pierre Augustin, Neary against McJoe Arroyo on the undercard of Errol Spence and Mikey Garcia. I talked about that earlier. I'm not crazy about that undercard, Sal.
I heard your comment.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Areola, obviously he's evolved into a gatekeeper. I don't know. I would have liked to have seen a better supporting fights than that. What's your thoughts?
Well, you would think that they would want a stellar card to really make a statement, but on the other side of the coin is maybe they just don't want anybody upstage or potentially put a better fight on than the main event, which I don't think they could because it's a great main event. But so I don't understand that. You think the best would follow the best, but in this case, for whatever reason, the promoter didn't think it's necessary. Maybe he's saving sandbagging and saving some of the noise for later. Who knows?
I got another email. This is from Coach, our man Coach. He says, first of all, he got the answer to the trivia question. I was hoping that somebody else would, and Coach has won so many copies of the Title Bout Championship computer game. He said the answer to the trivia question is Snoop's Boxing Gym in Poughkeepsie. That's correct. The very first show that we ever did was in Snoop's Boxing Gym in Poughkeepsie, New York. It was a gym that I was an owner of, part owner. So that's where it is. So I'm going to extend the question. So if you can get this question right and email me the correct answer, Billy at Talkin' Boxing, that's TalkinBoxing.com. I'll send you your very own copy of the Title Bout Championship computer game. Coach was kind enough to give the answer. But let me ask you this. Who joined me on that show, our very first show? Who was doing the show with me? One of two. There were two other people doing the show with me. If you guess one of the two, I will get you a copy. If you can guess both of the people that were on the early show with me, I'll even throw in a copy of my book. So if you know the first two people that were on the show with me when we broadcast our very first show at a Snoop's Boxing Gym in Poughkeepsie, New York 15 years ago, email me, Billy at Talkin' Boxing. That's TalkinBoxing.com. And I don't even think Coach knows the answer to that one.
I would take a stab at it.
Go ahead.
Either Jeremy or Billy Costello.
Ooh, good answers. Good answers.
I know. What do you think? I've been around the block a few times.
Good answers. Good answers.
But
I'm not going to comment on them because maybe you're right and maybe you're wrong.
At least you didn't say, "You're telling me all the right answers. I'm afraid of another ones I want to hear."
So Coach says, while the scale fighting potential filled Gervonta Tank Davis, he looked spectacular, rolling over late replacement 2-division climbing Hugo Ruiz. He better join Weight Watchers. If not, he doesn't. And if he doesn't stick to Mayweather's path of least resistance career, he has a long list of potential bumps in the road at 135. Vasily Lomachenko, Mikey Garcia, Devin Haney, Luke Campbell, Richard Comedy, Anthony Crowler, Emmanuel Tagoe, Machiuchi Nakatana, Javier Fortuna, Robert Easter Jr., to name a few. And if Top Rank loosens the reins on Teofimo Lopez, it would sure be a barn fire fight.
Sounds like a great class of top 10 contenders.
I tell you what, I can't disagree with Coach with any of that. You know, and that's the part of the sport of boxing. And I agree with what Dak said earlier, Sal. I don't blame the fighters because any fighter wants to fight anybody. They want to prove it. But the truth of the matter is those are all great fights, and true boxing fans should recognize that they're great fights. And unfortunately, we will get that to not work out the way we had all hoped. But we will see. I just lost my man Sal, so we'll see if we can't get him back on. He also goes on, Coach says, hey, Billy, I'm sure you read that the PBC signed Marcos Maidana. He says it looks that Big Al is showing his modus operandi and the WWE ways. I guess Maidana will get Broner in the rematch, or May Fayweather, as Manny must fight him first. It's becoming such a joke with Heyman's past of least resistance competition waiting. I'm waiting for a fight to break out between two corners and fighters getting hit with chairs. Coach is so right, Sal. He's been saying this for a long time, that boxing has become WWE, and really no one does it better to copy WWE than the PBC and Al Heyman. What's your thoughts? Whoa, there he is. What's your thoughts, Sal?
There were so many rights, there's nothing left. Joke.
No, I know, but they have to watch our other channel to hear that when you really said it. He hit him. He hit him. What did you say? He hit him with so many lefts. It wasn't right, or made him right.
Oh, yeah, he hit with so many lefts. It wasn't right.
Yeah.
It's not like that.
But what's your thoughts on what I just said about Marcos Maidana coming back and seemingly becoming WWE, man?
Well, like I said, some of these guys, they are following suit as far as what sells. I mean, tickets and seats, and whether it's right or wrong or true or false, that's the way. They just, like I said, the old days. We've said it many times before. with the old promoters, the grassroots, and then the natural just flow of promoters, the Don King era, the Bob Arum era, Luke Duva era. I mean, these guys were promoters. They were the fighter's mouthpiece. They were the fighter's ambassador. And, unfortunately, guys like that today are not so common because of the social media and everything else that they place emphasis on. I go to even example of I've got these guys, including some of my employees, that all they do today is IT. You got to do this, you got to do that. I don't got to do squat, all right? I'm an old grassroots kind of guy. If I want to go throw 10 free pizzas in the community as my advertisement and everything else, and let my pizzeria be known for the quality and the taste and everything else, and let the community talk about us, that's my advertisement. The social media whole aspect, again, it's great, but, you guys cannot let go of what the old school brought to the table, how it evolved.
Yeah, you're right. You're right, Sal. This whole internet thing just isn't going to catch on.
Yeah, I thought one day it would.
I got a couple other emails here. This one's from my man Mitch.
Thank you, Al Gore.
Yeah, my man Mitch. He says Joshua Miller breaks Madison Square Garden pre-sale record. He says, so here he comes to the United States, and it's no different. Deontay should have taken the $20 million offer, which is so right. Remember, Deontay Wilder was offered $20 million, 15 to fight Anthony Joshua, after he got 5 to fight anyone he chose, and then they were going to negotiate the rubber match, which he was guaranteed. They weren't saying he had that the $20 million only included the 2 fights, and then they were going to negotiate the 3rd fight depending upon how the first one went. And he turned it down. He still has yet to make that $20 million. And by the way, AJ's coming over and fighting big fat baby Miller and making between 25 and 30. But anyway, he says, so let's be clear. He comes to the U.S. He's talking about AJ. And it's no different. Deontay should have taken the $20 million. He says Deontay's guarantee for Fury was $4 million. AJ leaves the comfort of the UK, breaks Madison Square Garden's pre-sale record, and he's also done that in the UK. And he gets a effing $32 million guarantee to fight Miller. I didn't even realize it was that much. And
without Deontay Wilder.
Exactly. No, he's getting a guarantee. That means minimum. He says, I'm one of the few people who feel he should have stayed in the UK and changed the landscape of the heavyweight division. Do you want the titles? Come see me. Nevertheless, $32 million. They could have made this fight in Alaska. I'm with my man Mitch, Sal. I think that if we're going to hold on to anything that we used to value in the sport of boxing, if you're the champion, you get to fight in your backyard. You got to go to somebody else's backyard and win the title to earn to have the fight in your backyard. What's your thoughts?
Well, I believe that 100%. I mean, that's part of what you could say is not a fringe benefit, but one of the leverage, or one of the things that you could have and on your side. You pick the venue. You go to the backyard, and the challenger, who has to come after the title, literally comes into your backyard. And if he's the warrior mentality and physicality, then he comes in your backyard and takes the title home for him. But no, I believe what you just said is wholeheartedly true. And a champion should be able to fight in his backyard and, take on old challengers that are willing to step up to the challenge.
All right, we got one more email, and this one's from my man Joel. And Joel, I glanced at this while you were talking, and this is such a great email, not only because, it says what I've been saying for years, but let me read it. This is from my man Joel. Long time. He's so sharp, it's like a great piece of provolone. But he says, with the direction of watching TV, or in our case, combat sports, the future is all in the streaming world, as you've said so in the past. with subscription-based services. I've been talking about that for years, Sal. I mean,
you have. I still didn't think this would catch on, but it did.
It definitely it caught on quicker than I thought. But the truth of the matter is that it's not done yet. This is the beginning of it. Eventually, and I've said this years ago. Eventually, what we're going to do is we'll be able to subscribe to a carrier, a provider, and be specific of what we want to watch. So in other words, if you're a sports fan and you like boxing and football and baseball, you can pay to get all of those sports delivered to you worldwide. That's the way it's going to evolve. Right now we're there, but there's still the greed factor still involved, and until that all shakes out. But anyway,
we have to cut the cable guy out.
Let's read on. He says it's become more and more costly for someone as myself who's a fan of MMA, boxing, and wrestling to keep up with all my favorites. I have about 5 or 6 streaming costs a month. Do you feel that these services are really beneficial and will produce some big things for us down the line? It would be nice to have ESPN Plus giving us a fight like Crawford Khan rather than make us pay more for it on a pay-per-view. I feel DAZN is the winner so far, going out of its way to give us great quality boxing and MMA events without making you pay extra, and having a DAZN pay-per-view event. Giving us Canelo and Anthony Joshua for your normal $10 a month is a steal. What's your guys' thoughts? First of all, my thought is that DAZN does have it right, and the success of DAZN is gonna be made or broken relatively quickly. The amount of guarantees that they've shelled out for the big names like Anthony Joshua and of course Canelo Alvarez and their deals that they've signed, the amount of revenue, when you start doing the math, really the subscription, the $10 a month, they don't need that many. I mean, if they get 2 million people to subscribe, which would be a big number, that's pretty damn good. And considering if you're the consumer and you're paying $120 a year for all the big fights versus waiting for the 2 or 3 times a year for a big pay-per-view that you're spending $60 to $100 for, I guess you're getting a bargain. But the point that Joel is making here, I think, is in order to watch, and I've said this before, the promoters have seemingly aligned themselves with a specific streaming network. Top Rank with ESPN Plus, Eddie Hearn with DAZN, etc. And if you like, Eddie Hearn's fighters, you're going to subscribe to DAZN. If you like Top Rank fighters, you're going to subscribe to ESPN Plus. So what's happened is they've taken a piece of the UFC model that Dana White built, where he formed a league, and all these fighters had to fight with under that league and made the league money. Well, boxing can't form a league right now to be successful. There's too many sanctioning bodies involved. The fighters would be enticed to jump out of the league for more money. It's just, at this point, it's a virtually impossible thing to succeed at. However, by doing it the way they are, aligning yourself, forcing you to align yourself with a specific promoter and his or her fighters, now that seems like a pretty smart approach. They're all trying to get in on it at this level. It'll eventually come where some other network, some other provider will gobble up and pay for the subscribers to DAZN and ESPN Plus or what have you to give their consumer a package which will encompass all of it. That's how I think it's going to end up going. And I think at this point, Joel, to answer your question, you're in a no-win situation. If you want it all, you got to pay for it all. What's your thoughts, Sal?
Just what you said right there. If you want it all, you're going to have to pay for it all now and then later. And I agree with you too, Bill. I think there's going to be some big bird that's going to come around, gobble up all the services and blanket it in an a la carte fashion under their own guise. And, that, could I tell you the truth? I would like that, because I don't like to worry about this one, that one, and everything else. It's too much. Let me have one where I could select, hey, I want to see these fights, that fight, this one, here and there, and I'll pay for it. I'll pay for whatever, they want to see.
But the beauty of these services at this point is if you, not that I'm promoting any of them because I hate promoting anything I don't get a cut of.
Absolutely.
But the truth of the matter is for these top two, ESPN Plus and DAZN, the beauty of subscribing and paying the $5 or $10 a month is that, I don't know about you, man, but by midnight I'm in my feety pajamas. Usually, to be honest with you, by 9 o'clock. So I get to watch these at 4 in the morning when I usually wake up, or 3 in the morning is my normal routine. I get up at 3 in the morning. I can turn around and watch these fights without paying extra for a service. In other words, if you were just getting these on TV, the extra $10 a month you're paying for the DVR service, you might just get the regular cable service or from a satellite or whatever. But you want the DVR capability. Well, now you're going to pay a little extra for that. You're paying these services and you get to watch it on demand when you want anyway. So you kind of, yes, you are paying extra, but you're getting a little more for it, too, at this stage. They're all scrambling right now, but eventually we will be able to get, and it will probably be based on the device. If you're in a Verizon world or if you're in an Apple world, that's going to be the driver, I think, because those are the only two types of, because let's face it, television, the way we know it, is going bye-bye. So it's going to all be streaming anyway. So whether you're watching it on a 50-inch TV or whether you're watching it on your little phone, not your flip phone, Sal, because Sal's moved right up into technology. He's got a flip phone now. But no, I got to be honest. You got a smartphone, don't you?
It's not that smart. It's an old. Tell you how old it is. I've had this phone. I didn't start using it until my flip phone broke about a year ago, and I've got this old iPhone 5S. That's how old it is. And I activated it, and it has been a challenge. I don't like iPhone. I don't like iPhone products. I'm going to Galaxy. I think the 9 Note is for me. That's it.
I tell you, Sal's phone is so old, it's got gray hairs on it. It
does. It's got cracked screens. It's got this. It's got that. But it's resurrected. I have a phone magician that I call, and they come and they rescue it.
Years ago, and I think this was Alex Papali, but years ago, he and I were somewhere, and I think he drove over his phone with his car, and it was a flip phone that survived. So they're tough. Now you drop it the wrong way. But anyway, next week, boys and girls, we're going to be talking about some good fights that are going to be taking place, and one of them I'm really looking forward to in the super middleweight division. James DeGale is taking on Chris Eubank Jr. This is a really good fight. On paper, it's a good fight, and for real, it's a good fight. When you look at these guys' last 10 fights or so, each of them have all fought some pretty tough opposition. As a matter of fact, 3 fights ago, Chris Eubank fought Anvili Yildirim, knocked him out in 3. This is the same Yildirim that'll be fighting Sean Porter in his first world title defense. So this is a fight I'm really looking forward to that we'll get to talk about next week, Sal.
That sounds good. I'll look forward to it, and I'll start doing some homework on it right now.
Well, it sounds good. It sounds good because I know you'll be well prepared for next week. I know you will be. But anyway, listen, boys and girls, make sure you tune in next time. Same bat time, same bat channel. Until then, I'll leave you with this. Ciao, baby.